Hey everyone, this is Dominic and Christina and Scarlett Sedillo from Calvary Chapel Southwest, Kidtricity, the children's ministry, and we're continuing our weekly lesson on what happens after Easter. Easter was last month, and we learned all about what happened during then, but a lot of stuff happened after that, and it's so important. It's going to take a while, but you know what? It's awesome stuff. What happens after Easter? Okay, 3 big things happen that we keep talking about every week. Number 1, Jesus was raised from the dead, okay? Nobody else could do that. He was alive again. Number 2, he appeared to a bunch of people, a bunch of different people. That's important. Number 3, lastly, he ascended into heaven, okay? We're going to continue to find out what happened after Easter in all 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We're still in Matthew. If you remember from our previous lessons, lots of stuff happens. You get a lot of different points of view in Matthew because it's a very detailed account. Okay, so we're going to read from Matthew chapter 27, verses 62 through 66. Please follow along. If you like, Miss Christina is going to read those passages.
The guard at the tomb. The next day, which was a Sabbath, the chief priests and the Pharisees met with Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember that while that liar was still alive, he said, 'I will be raised to life 3 days later.' Give orders then for his tomb to be carefully guarded until the 3rd day, so that his disciples will not be able to go and steal the body and then tell the people that he was raised from death. This last lie would be even worse than the first one." "Take a guard," Pilate told them. "Go and make the tomb as secure as you can." So they left and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and leaving the guard on watch.
Okay, so a lot of stuff happened there. One of the big things is that the priests and the Pharisees, they're sneaking around at night, going to Pontius Pilate to ask for a guard to put over the tomb of Jesus where he was buried, because Jesus said that he was going to rise from the dead, right? Okay, and Miss Scarlett, and he said he was going to rise from the dead, and they didn't believe it, and they thought that the disciples were going to come in, take the body away, and say, "Hey, look, everybody, Jesus is raised from the dead. His body's not there." They thought that the disciples were going to pull a fast one on everybody. But that's not true. Jesus really did rise from the dead. So here's the first part of this. Priests and the Pharisees still, I'll tell you what I mean by still sneaking around. They're a bunch of sneaky weasels. This is after Good Friday. Okay, they're sneaking out on the Sabbath. If you remember from reading any of the Gospels, is that the Jewish people took the Sabbath, that's the day of rest, very, very seriously. You were not supposed to do work of any kind, but also you'll find out that the priests and the Pharisees of this time when Jesus was around were very hypocritical, and he called them as such, so I'm not saying anything bad, okay? They were always breaking the Sabbath because they were trying to catch other people from breaking the Sabbath. They were like the narcs of those days. So they were always sneaking about, seeing if anybody was breaking the rules. While doing that, they were themselves breaking the rules. They should not have been out there going to meet with Pilate during that night because it was the Sabbath day. Okay. They're talking about a liar, quote unquote, in that passage, okay? They're talking about Jesus because they thought that he was a liar. He said in all of these passages right here that he was going to rise from the dead and come back in 3 days. He was not shy about it. He was not coy. He was very vocal and very clear about that. So you can pick any one of these. They all say the same thing. Miss Christina is going to read Matthew 16:21.
From that time on, Jesus began to say plainly to his disciples, "I must go to Jerusalem and suffer much from the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law. I will be put to death, but 3 days later, I will be raised to life."
Okay, so that's again what the priests and the Pharisees were talking about. They remembered because they heard so many times that Jesus had said, "Hey guys, I'm going to die, I'm going to come back in 3 days." So they thought that, like I said, the disciples were going to pull a fast one on everybody, take the body, and tell everybody, "Hey guys, Jesus rise from the dead, his body's not there," okay? But that's not true again. He really did do it, but still, they wanted to put a guard over the tomb in case the disciples were going to be doing a fast one. A fast one means it's a trick, okay? So Pilate said, okay, put a tomb on there, and they will seal the tomb. Scarlett, what animal is that? It's a seal, but not that kind of seal that was on the tomb. A seal was, it was like a stamp, okay? Like, you know, when you get like a stamp, like in your grades in school or something like that, okay? It was a ring that had an impression on it that they would use to say like, hey, we have guards here and everything, but this seal is going to make an impression on this. It's going to make a mark, and that's going to be an official document. So that meant that nobody but anybody that had this seal could unlock this. It was like the final word. You could have all kinds of guards or religious leaders or people like that that came up and said, hey guys, go ahead and open up this tomb. But unless they had that seal, that stamp of approval, it was kind of like a proof of purchase. It was just kind of like a pass. It was something that signified that that's the final thing to say, hey, you can unlock this. This is official, it's legal, and you can find a reference to that in the book of Daniel, chapter 6, verse 17, if you want to find that. Daniel is in the Old Testament. Scarlett, what is the Old Testament?
The Old Testament is before Jesus was born.
All right, so this practice of using a signet ring to use a seal to mark something, to make something very legal, was used all the way back in the Old Testament before Jesus was born.
So Daniel 6:17. A stone was put over the mouth of the pit, and the king placed his own royal seal and the seal of his nobleman on the stone, so that no one could rescue Daniel.
All right, so you hear that? It makes more sense when you hear it in the Bible. The seal was a royal seal, okay? It basically said, no matter what, no matter who comes here, nobody can open up unless they have this seal. And that royal seal was only from the king. So basically, flash forward to the New Testament. Scarlett, what is the New Testament?
The New Testament after Jesus was born.
That's right. So flash forward to the New Testament when Jesus was born and when this story that we're talking about happened, okay, they're still using a signet ring. So the Pharisees and the priests, they get a bunch of guards to stand in front of the tomb. Okay, think about it. It's the grave in Jesus' time was different, if you remember. It's not like how we see graves now where you stick them in the ground and they have a headstone. They put people inside of a cave, okay, and then they rolled a huge, heavy stone over it. Okay, so that's heavy, okay? And then the priests and the Pharisees were so paranoid that they're like, well, let's get guards in front of it too. So they had guards. That's a second layer of things. Soldiers, professional soldiers, okay? We learned about that a couple weeks ago. The centurions were professional soldiers. They were some pretty bad dudes. Lastly, they had this official royal seal that says no matter what, even if everything, this seal is the only way that we're going to open this tomb up. Okay, so again, the Pharisees, they believed that Jesus was a liar. They thought the disciples were going to steal the body, okay? To make sure that that didn't happen, you had a big heavy rock, a bunch of professional soldiers, and something that only could be opened legally by somebody of royalty that had the seal, the official seal. Okay, all of that to show you, all of this to say that even with all of those things on there, Jesus rose from the dead, proving that it wasn't a trick. There was no grave robbing. Jesus could in fact rise from the dead. He was mighty enough because, hey, guess what, everybody? He's the Son of God. And he was able to get that stone away, shoo the guards away, and just say whatever to that royal seal because it was the for real deal, guys. Nothing could keep him from coming out of the grave. And that's the most important thing from this whole thing, that despite all these efforts from these men, these doubters, these people that did not believe, Jesus just says, hey guys, I'm Jesus, I'm the Son of God. You can see it and believe it for yourselves. And we hope that that's the case for you guys. Take it as proof positive that Jesus is true and he's alive. Thanks guys, we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.